When I was at school, I didn't get bullied by children. When I was at primary school, there were very large class sizes at the first primary school I went to. There were 46 pupils in one class, meaning that classroom discipline became the main issue rather than teaching or learning the explicit curriculum or the items which we were expected to learn. The teachers regarded me as a disruptive influence in the class. I'm not sure why she did that. As a result, and I don't blame her for this because I'm, well, over it, and also I think that she was in a very difficult position. She probably had her own reasons for this and so forth. She used to lock me in a cupboard every day, all day, for about a term. I mainly found this boring. Another thing she did was that she made me stand in my underwear in the snow for hours on end. I think she probably had a reason for this. I don't really understand what it was. I would say that the fact that a few years later she died of cancer perhaps indicates that there were issues there that she wasn't dealing with very well. So I don't regard her as responsible for what she did, and that's fine. Now, at secondary school, I didn't experience any bullying. I didn't experience any bullying at the second primary school that I went to, which was a much smaller school. I think one of the teachers had a bit of an odd attitude towards me that I didn't really understand, but I don't really want to go into that because, you know, I think that basically you couldn't believe that I was as bad at the practical things as I really was, and I wasn't making any effort. But I'm not going to regard that as bullying. I think that, in fact, the secondary school I went to was very good in that respect, and I don't know whether it was good in that respect because it was in a middle class area, had a lot of fairly wealthy families going to it and so forth, and as a result they didn't have many, perhaps didn't have as many sort of social problems or problems at home that they would then bring to school and act out in some way. So there wasn't any bullying at the secondary school I went to, as far as I could tell, certainly not with me. And in fact, I think the children there were unusually mature and so on. And that's brilliant. Okay, no problem. That's really good. I'm glad that it can work sometimes. Now, when I went to university, it was another matter. I in fact think I did experience quite a fair amount of psychological bullying at university from other students, and I think the reason for that was because people are quite afraid as young adults and take themselves out of a situation where they are then homesick, they haven't got their families around them, they haven't got the kind of support from their old friends, school friends, and as a result they sort of gang up, and I think they have their own reasons for doing that. Now, I also want to talk about my wife. Now, I can't speak for her, and she's busy at the moment, so I'm not going to sort of go into too much depth about this, but she had a lot of psychological bullying when she was a teacher from other teachers and from the headmaster. She left teaching, she went back to it, and she experienced the same thing again. When we eventually had children, obviously this was a big issue for us, and the experiences that we'd had at school have been quite negative for quite a long time, and schools appeared to have got a lot worse. And as a result, we decided to give the children the choice not to go to school or to go to school. And one of the reasons for that was because of the bullying. But notice that the bullying was from the teachers, not from other pupils. And it's also the case that teachers are bullied by pupils. And I think this is important to remember, is that it's not just a case of children bullying other children. It's much more complicated than that. And teachers can be victims as well. That's what we decided to do. Now, obviously, I think that home education, or whatever you want to call it, is a very positive thing in itself. But if you're going to sort of contrast the positive socialisation that you get in home education with the possible suicide as affected Amanda Todd, surely that situation, even if there was not a lot of socialisation or whatever, taking your child out of school in that situation is surely still better than leaving them in there to be bullied. Problematic, obviously, to take them out of school because the bullying problem in the school is not dealt with. But you often find that, in fact, the bullying problem is not dealt with. And what are you supposed to do in that situation? You can't really leave your child in harm's way in that way when you know there's a solution to it. And I think that it's important that we get the message out there that home education is a legal option for children who are being bullied. And it's also a very positive option. And it doesn't involve a lack of socialisation or them being behind. In fact, they're an average of 3 years ahead of children in school. And I just want to say really that that's the connection between bullying and our home education, although we have many other reasons. As a result, I think it's important to publicise the fact that home education is an option and it should be considered to be a problem at the school when people take their children out of school, and not a problem that the parents have done that.